Parliament of St. Vincent and the Grenadines passed the Excise Tax Amendment Bill on Monday, 21st November, in an effort to bring the island's taxation in line with that of CARICOM. The amendments will harmonize the customs tariffs heading for product descriptions in the first and second schedules of the Excise Tax Act with the harmonized commodity description and coding system HS 2022 of the Common External Tariff. Finance Minister Camilo Gonçalves, who introduced the bill, stated that the CARICOM states are in various stages of implementing this version of the system and that the new legislation will amend the Excise Tax Act beginning on January 1st, 2023. Gonçalves stated that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is falling behind as the region is already on its seventh version, while the version currently used at the port in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is HF 2007. Gonçalves stated that versions are updated every 5 years, and since the island missed 2012 and 2017, they are moving from HS 2007 to HS 2022 to avoid implementing things that are already obsolete. Students from the Head Start preschool visited the Argyle International Airport on November 8, 2022, as part of their annual fire safety program. Inspector Ellis, Sergeant Samuel, and Constable Ogaru were among the group of fire safety personnel that engaged the students on fire safety and the roles and functions of firefighters. The police officers used creative videos and songs, techniques which allowed the children to connect with the content being taught. The highlight for the toddlers of Head Start Preschool was being able to ride in the fire truck and observe the way it works. This was evident by the smiles and joy seen on the students' faces for the wonderful practical exposure to content in this subject area. The principal of the Head Start Preschool, Lavinia Francis, expressed that the police officers were extremely courteous, thoughtful, and very organized. Still on the local scene, at least 40 residents of the communities north of the Rabuka Dry River are expected to be involved in a climate change workshop this week under the umbrella of Caribbean Youth Environment Network (CN) and its Climate Justice Awareness Drive among indigenous communities. While the Caribbean region is most heavily impacted by the consequences of climate change, indigenous communities in this region are among the most vulnerable, according to the Barbados headquartered CN. The 20-year-old network is therefore helping to build awareness among indigenous communities of the region to enable them to build resilience as they respond to the impacts and challenges brought about by climate change. The workshops will take place on Wednesday and Thursday, November 23rd to 24th at the Seventh-day Adventist Church building in Sandy Bay and is mainly consulted by Dr. Andrew Simmons. The two-day forum, which will bring together youth leaders, leaders from faith organizations, and other community influencers, is intended to build awareness on climate change stresses and calamities, and identify actions which can be undertaken for adaptation and the building of resilience. In the region, Barbados will soon be able to rebuild at no cost to taxpayers if devastated by any major natural disaster, thanks to a historic multi-billion-dollar climate crisis deal that's expected to take effect in 2024. Though the amount is still to be agreed, the fund is expected to move closer to establishment over the coming year when a transition team meets to work out the nuts and bolts of the funding and the sources and make recommendations that will get it up and running in 2024. Prime Minister Maya Motley's Special Envoy for Climate Finance, Professor Avinash Prasad, revealed this on Monday, following the brokering of an agreement on Sunday at the COP United Nations Climate Summit in Egypt. Professor Prasad said while Barbados had been suggesting the establishment of a climate fund between 50 billion and 100 billion US dollars, the Transition Committee will make the final determination. Motley's special envoy also said that the amount of money that Barbados would receive in the aftermath of a national disaster would depend on the size of the emergency. Still on the regional scene, the World Bank Group announced the 3-year ban with conditional release of an individual consultant in connection with a corrupt practice as part of the Petroleum Governance and Management Project in Guyana. The ban makes Carlos Barberan Diaz, a Spanish national, and his controlled affiliates, AC Oil and Gas SL and AC Oil and Gas Emirates LLC, in, in, ineligible to participate in projects and operations financed by institutions of the World Bank Group. The project provides financing to support the enhancement of Guyana's legal and institutional frameworks and the strengthening of the capacity of key institutions to manage the country's oil and gas sector. According to the facts of the case in 2020, Barberan Diaz approached 4 consulting companies involved in the oil and gas business and used his position in the project to directly offer his services and solicit future payments from each of these companies. In exchange, he offered to influence procurement processes under the project in their favor. Although INT found no evidence of payments made to Barberan Diaz by these companies, such as solicitation constitutes a corrupt practice under the World Bank's procurement regulations and anti-corrupt guidelines, the World Bank said. And finally, on the international scene, the death toll on the Indonesian island of Java has risen to 268, with many of those killed and injured in the major earthquake being children. According to officials, more than 1,000 people were wounded. In its latest announcement on Tuesday, the National Disaster Mitigation Agency (BNPB) added that 151 people were still missing. The 5.6 magnitude quake struck a mountainous region on Monday, causing landslides that buried entire villages near the West Java town in Cianjur. The earthquake, which struck a shallow depth of 10 kilometers, was followed by dozens of aftershocks which caused more damage as poorly built homes collapsed. In the village of Siberium, a family was trying to retrieve the body of their eldest son, a 28-year-old man who had been crushed when the other levels of the home fell on him. This has been WEFM's 3 p.m. news. I have been your presenter, Jessica Klein. Join us again at 5:30 p.m. for WEFM's evening news, and we thank you for listening.
Used tires sale. Buy 3 used tires and get 1 free on selected sizes at